Mi gente, you already know who it is. It's Danny Limelight. And I need all of you to subscribe to According to Woods podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and all other platforms.
What's good, party people? This is According to Woods, and I have the honor and privilege of having returned to the podcast. She is a current women's champion. She is one half of the Pretty Little Killers. She's the one, the only Ivy. Ivy, what's going on?
Really good, thank you. Catching up on some WrestleMania sleep, but other than that, pretty good. Thanks. How are you?
I'm good. I mean, it's kind of fun because we left off before we had a run-in by Wrestling Kitties. Not Miss Kitty, that's a different Wrestling Kitty. But, we were kind of talking about, like Seth Rollins and the Wyatts and what have you. And it's funny because that was before Mania. Here we sit, 40, not 48 quite, but 36 hours removed from Mania. So both of them had things to do at Mania.
Yeah. I think I said it when we were talking about characters the other day, that how much I love The Fiend, and think that whole, was what happened at Mania the perfect thing for The Fiend? But it left us wanting more. It left me with more questions than answers. So the first thing I did this morning, obviously for us, Raw is on sort of late 1 o'clock onwards. So I haven't stayed up to watch it. So The first thing I did this morning was pick my phone up. What was The Fiend doing on Raw last night?
So, let's remove, and I don't think we're spoiling anything. You're in the UK, I'm in LA, right? So if you wanted to find out what happened to The Fiend, Alexa Bliss, or whatever, you had ample time. And don't say I didn't have 3 hours. Hey, I caught up on it on the YouTube clip. So yeah. There's that. 4 minutes, whatever. But we're not spoiling anything here. So what was your take on the aftermath of Raw? I almost went AfterBuzz, and that's another show entirely with a bunch of my friends who were on that one. But what do you take this character direction of Alexa Bliss?
It's interesting. I love Alexa Bliss. I liked Alexa Bliss when she was in NXT. I liked her as a singles wrestler. I like what she's doing now. So she, to me, is very interesting anyway. It's great when she's wrestling because she has a lot of characteristics that I do as a wrestler. So I'm like, that's great. I'm going to steal that. So it's great when she's wrestling because I can pinch her stuff. But it's really interesting to see where they're going to go with it. I thought they were going to go down the Sister Abigail route, but it doesn't seem like they are. It seems like they're almost giving her own separate character, which is great. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see where they go from here with it.
No, 100%. Now we're gonna slide off a little bit because Alex Ramirez says, "Sorry to interrupt, but Coinbase officially goes public tomorrow by Bitcoin, Ethereum, Doge, Ripple, Cardano. Do it." And that's that. So big on the cryptocurrency space. Apparently, one of the biggest crypto wallets is going public on the stock market, and all types of kerfluffle, which I would even say it's a bit of sparkle to if you're looking at the stock market, it's almost like it's a bunch of old fogies doing the thing and the numbers and those guys at Ferris Bueller that Cameron was mimicking. But you would say that cryptocurrency for a new generation is almost like a sparkle splash on the take of the Wall Street deal, which I gotta say, I think the splash for Alexa Bliss would be better now, and call it something like the poison splash or something like that. Now she should be doing that move.
Yeah, 100%. See what they can do with it. Takes on a different entity now, doesn't it? Now she's got this whole dark character.
Yeah, and especially whatever is going on, and so not to say that I'm a I'm a historian of liquid that comes out of WWF wrestlers or anything like that. But, whatever was seeping from Alexa's crown of,
Yeah.
I mean, I almost went like Nine Inch Nails, that crown of not thorns. It's extra, right? But they wouldn't do that at Mania to Alexa Bliss, who's been absolutely brilliant in her role. But it's so whatever that was, which is different than Papa Shango and what he did to the Warrior back in the day and made him blah, or like
Yeah.
whatever, which is different than the Great Muta, aka Tajiri, aka Oscar Miss. And I'm probably missing somebody there. This is a completely different thing, and it was different from the slime, the Nickelodeon slime that that Shane basically topped Braun Strowman with. So this is like, it was a different liquid than I've seen in the WWF in the last 30 years.
Yeah,
I don't know why I'm.
Yeah, absolutely looked great. I think because it was constant as well. It wasn't like it didn't look like it was running out. Daft as that sounds, so it was constant stream down her face. It was fun. The whole spectacle of that. For me, the Fiend is a spectacle, and that's what that's what I wanted. So you had the whole entrance with the big box of him coming out of it, and when we were watching it, we were going, "He's not just going to climb down, is he?" Because that would like be such an anticlimax if he has to like clamber down off the box. We go, "He's going to jump," and that whole thing, and then leading to the finish with the stuff dripping down Alexa's face. The spectacle of it was incredible. I know people weren't happy with it, but there were people not happy with the Fiend before. It depends what you like in wrestling, I think.
Yeah, it's weird. And I'm surprised in terms of like storytelling and everything like that. They went that hard in the paint with like how dark she is. We have pentagrams at WrestleMania. Like that is
yeah.
Wow. Yeah, and it's weird because like, especially I wonder, and I haven't gone back to check, but like if that's still up on the network or the Peacock network here in the States, because they've ran roughshod like all of your wrestling memories that might be questionable, but you love because it's wrestling and why not, right? That's taken down, so I don't know how that stays up.
Oh, that's upsetting for you guys. We've still got the network for now, so you'll have to.
No, oh man, I had to conjure up whatever Alexa was having with like minimal result. I didn't have anything coming down my face, but just to get, I have an Amazon Fire Stick, and just to get the network and what have you, like apparently there's like this kind of tussle going on. There's literally wrestling by big corporate whatever about like what footage and who and what and all that jazz. So I had to like literally conjure up an Alexa Bliss kind of whatever the heck, just to get it on the Fire Stick in time for Mania. And I'm glad I did. And I actually did it on Monday before because Hall of Fame was the next night. And
make sure you're ready for it. Yeah. See, Hall of Fame was so long ago. I forgot that was even on Tuesday. That feels like months ago that we watched that.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I mean, do you like the 2-day everything in terms of wrestling?
Yeah, I think I do. I think it was possibly a little bit too much this year with having 2 NXTs. Obviously, you've got Hall of Fame. We had NXT UK, then the 2 WrestleManias because it's a week. Yeah. I need a week off my real shoot job to be able to keep up with everything and watch everything I want to a standard where I feel like I've sat and watched it rather than it just being on. So I think the 2 days of NXT was too much, but I love NXT as well. So It's hard to sort of say that because everything that was on was great. I do like the 2 days of WrestleMania, but WrestleMania is like Christmas for wrestling fans. So it's like having 2 days of Christmas. So it's hard to say I don't want 2 days.
Yeah. No, it's funny. Nate Wren's so kind. It's a great day when I can tune in and watch over the top Adam Woods interviewing great people on According to Woods. As always, enjoy seeing Ivy. Wrestler, she is so damn entertaining to watch. Shout out to Nate Wren. And Rated R Archetype says, "You're the man, Adam." No, you are good sir, good brother. Love you, man. No, but it's funny because I don't know. Mania pre the 2 night deal, right? We're going back to Mania 2019, and not to sound like the whole hum guy, but oh man, I fell asleep for the first time in my life during Mania. It was entirely too long, and
Mm.
like I guess like you were talking about, like where they were going with Alexa Bliss, and where are they going with the Fiend, and the storytelling, and like it leaves you wanting more, right? And it's starting to solve a bit of the puzzle. It's putting the puzzle together, but the puzzle piece that needed to put in terms of my kind of napping during Mania wasn't, oh, more of it across
Yeah,
2 nights. It was like, maybe condense it. Like I
yeah,
didn't know I was gonna harken back to the days of the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, but why not?
yeah. It it's difficult, isn't it? Because you always say you want more wrestling as a wrestling fan, but then when you need to try and stay awake, I fell asleep on night one this year halfway through the Miz Morrison match, and
Mhm.
that's nothing to do with Miz and Morrison, but it was because of the delay. I think it finished at 5 a.m. here, so by that time it was gone 4 a.m. And I'd actually done a no fans taping the day before, so I was absolutely shattered because obviously any wrestling at the minute is tiring
Yeah.
because I'm not used to it. So then, yes, I fell asleep in the middle of Ms. Morrison and had to go back and rewatch that. I did wake up for the main event and watch that through. But I even for us in the UK, that it's difficult to do 2 nights. But at the same time, if we're going to have that amount of wrestling, I'd rather be over 2 nights than crammed into one like it was in 2019.
Yeah, no, 100%. Which I mean, we're on that Miz Morrison deal. You're one half of the Pretty Little Killers, right? So Miz and Morrison, how did they perform in your kind of estimation as a tag team? Obviously, with their kind of first run, when they were doing like the what was it, the highlight? It wasn't the highlight reel. Oh gosh, I forgot what their show is.
The TV stuff.
Yeah, it was that. It was that. But how do you think they performed? And is Bad Bunny a thing out there?
I thought it was great. I thought they did a great job with what they had that night. I thought Bad Bunny was fantastic. He's obviously not one of these celebrities that has just come in and once the payday, he's gone and he's trained and he didn't do any harm to the business. I don't think for the work that he's obviously put in. The Miz, I love Miz and Morrison, but the Miz, I think, is a solid performer. He's a company man. He's doing everything that they could ask him for. He was perfect in that match. It was the right person to put in there. When Bad Bunny did the Canadian Destroyer, my favorite part was the Miz and Damian Priest's face after he did it, because they panned to the Miz, he's shocked, go to Damian Priest, he's shocked, and I thought that's perfect. That's the perfect sort of face for them to be pulling, where it doesn't, make it look like Bad Bunny's just a Canadian Destroyer. That's he shouldn't be doing that realistically. But you got their faces where they kind of told that story of, oh my God, look at what this guy's just done. Even Damian Priest, his tag partner, didn't understand, didn't see that he was going to do that. So, yeah, I think Miz and Morrison are great. And I think they were the right two people to be in that situation. And it kind of feels like the Miz gets a tough time, I think. I feel like the Miz genuinely did just want to help the company and get that across. And I think they did a great job.
No, it's I kind of, and we were kind of talking off air in terms of finishes and what have you. Like the Canadian Destroyer for that guy, like that's a finish, and one of the most like fantastic. It's flippy-ish for a different deal. Like Doug Williams is Chaos Theory, and then Petey Williams is Canadian Destroyer. That's a flippy-ish before flippy-ish got a
Yeah.
little bit overdone, right? I was kind of mad at it. And then I checked on the Twitter machine, and none other than Petey Williams is giving praise to Bad Bunny, and even Doug Williams, which I was
Yeah.
surprised by, and it was like, the same thing. You're almost verbatim of your take on Miz and Morrison. Just love them, they're fantastic performers. But here you have a, this was an Al Sharpton or Little Richard who were just gonna pick up their paycheck and leave. No, this is somebody who actually cared about the product, took time to learn the craft, and for what he did was actually pretty brilliant.
Yeah, he did. It was great. It was entertaining. We were saying it was almost like a camp show style match with all the bits that they did at the start, and just your generic match you do in front of a crowd, heel, babyface. That's all it was. But that's classic. That's what people want. You want a good guy, you want a bad guy, and I think they did a great job with it. I understand why people are annoyed at the Canadian Destroyer, but it is what it is. It got the reaction it needed. I think they did a good job.
Yeah, it's something that they're definitely going to play on, or have already played on, like TMZ and TikTok and all the jazz. So right on. But to me, you were talking about like the Miz. I felt like when I think back in my mind to WrestleMania 37, it's going to stand out to me as Mea Culpa Mania. And you know why? It's like, hey Titus, you want a WrestleMania and go into the Hall of Fame? Sure. Absolutely, I'd be honored. You got to do it with Hogan in pirate suits on a live crowd. Might not take too kindly to Hogan, right? There's that. Hey, Miz, you want another run at the title? Cool, bro. You're working Bad Bunny. Like
yeah. Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? Because you don't know what's gone on, what conversations have been had, and from an outsider's point of view, I can see why you would think that. The Titus and Hogan thing for me was, I didn't like that. That was a no. But I was secretly quite glad that Hogan got booed on the first night. But I was like, I feel like he deserved that. But they seem to be not as bad with him on the second night. And I don't know if you noticed, they seem to focus on anybody that had got a Hogan t-shirt on in the second night.
Yes.
The camera was anybody that had got a Hogan sign, a Hogan t-shirt, anything Hogan related. The cameramen had found them and was like, look all these people, they love Hogan. But you can still hear it when that live crowd's there.
Yeah, but even, I guess when you go to concerts and what have you to see your favorite artists, they call it mixing. There's still a bit of mixing. It wasn't all live crowd. Like, you can hear of a lot of the piped in noise, and that's kind of like WWE's kind of deal to kind of mitigate all of the stuff that is going on. I mean, they kind of have a perfect scenario because going into the pandemic and what have you, we were seeing all across the interwebs of low attendance for live events, them kind of teeter-totting with the idea of not having house shows at all, and that's one of the things that AEW does is like, we don't have live events. Like you get what you get on TV and YouTube, and that's it, and then also people like Roman Reigns and whatever, like their heels got cheered and the faces got booed. So look at a year of doing piped in crowds. They've kind of worked in a formulaic equation to essentially get the desired optics of what they want.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't hate the piped in crowd noise. I hate the piped in crowd noise at Hall of Fame. That was horrendous. But the piped in crowd noise on Raw and pay-per-views and whatnot, I don't hate it. It's fine. And like you say, they've been able to get some of the characters the way they want those characters across. I also think the pandemic has allowed people to tell a story maybe a little bit more with their matches rather than having to think about the crowd as much, which sounds weird because obviously, if you ask a wrestler, they're always going to pick the crowd being there, but it has given them that different dynamic to allow different wrestlers to do different things. And Roman Reigns is the perfect example, really, of what Roman was before the pandemic to what Roman is now.
Yeah, I don't think there is a better scenario than that, where he's actually coming out, and I agree. He is doing the best work of his career. right? That's cool. I don't ruminate with my guy, man. Like he's, in terms of factions, he's got almost everything that I didn't like about the Shield, from the actual shields for so long, the camo boots and what have you, and then now he's the tribal chief. Still keep, like, none of the Polynesian whatever. You still keep your wretched, like, black, what is it, SWAT fatigues, and
Yeah.
yeah. And I mean, maybe I'm asking too much because I'm part Fijian, right? Like mom side of the family, all from Fiji. So we've all been like cannibals and savages in wrestling. So I should, like, him and his brother Matt, dearly departed, but was the superhero in training, right? Or you could work out the acronym if you want. But those are like the only two kind of WWE portrayals, and then maybe Yokozuna. Yokozuna wasn't the savage like Islander, but he was just Japanese. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've always liked Roman Reigns, but what I think about Roman, not now, but back then, was that Roman Reigns was never made for us. Roman Reigns was made for the John Cena fans. The John Cena's left. Now we need to replace John Cena. Someone's going to do the Make-A-Wish. So he was never made for us. So does it matter if we didn't like him? Nah, I don't think so. So I can see why, as an adult male wrestling fan, Roman Reigns would not be for you when he was in the Shield and coming out of the Shield and had his babyface run and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, the Shield had wretched theme music, and the first time Mr. Reigns essentially sold a punch to the chest with the vest. I'm done.
Yeah. I love the Shield entrance music. I think it's great.
It sounds like if you had one too many burritos and it didn't agree with you after the night of, going to the pub and such. Like, that's literally everybody essentially out the other end of their orifice basically sings the Roman Reigns theme song if you do it right. So
I think I have good memories of it as well, though, because so when you go to live crowds and stuff, they used to come through the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
So like that was always quite a buzz when you were there live to be like, where are they coming from? So it's maybe it's good memories rather than the actual music being great.
Yeah, no, it's it. Well, essentially, maybe you're one of the fans that they're trying to get over to come over to the Roman side, because I mean, I guess the kind of archetype in terms of what they want the fans feeling is to put smiles on people's faces. So if you have a brilliant memory attached to it, well, I guess they did their job, and it mitigates all the crappy stuff that they've made us subject to.
I think I'm their dream wrestling fan because I think like a child. So I love all the gimmick parts of wrestling. I love stuff like that. So I'm probably their perfect fan as a 31-year-old woman. That's what they want. I just do what they tell me.
Whoa, that's almost like a Rage Against the Machine, though, right? Like, you do what you told you,
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. It's funny because you were talking about Rollins. What did you think about Rollins's kind of inclusion in Mania? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Okay.
Yeah, I thought the match was incredible. The whole finishing sequence was just so smooth, so beautiful. Like, I just think he must have been thinking of those transitions for years for it to be able to work the way it was. It was that for me was probably, other than the women's match, the Bianca Sasha, I think that was match of the weekend for me. Bianca Sasha was probably first, but I loved that. But I really like Cesaro. I think Cesaro is very interesting. And then Rollins, for me, is just everything. I think he's incredible.
Yeah, Rollins has definitely grown on me. And much like his Shield counterpart, good Lord, he's almost, you want to take everything that I said about Roman and then insert it to Seth, And most people are like, how do you do that? Like, they're two different wrestlers. And I get it. Absolutely. And Seth, that's Tyler Black, was an indie darling. But I remember, because there wasn't really, he's just not, he's the guy who turned on the Shields, right? And that's all. And then the guy who partnered with Triple H. But he didn't really, in terms of character development, you don't know who Seth Rollins or, like, you knew what Bret Hart was, the excellence of execution, sharpshooter, Shawn Michaels, the Undertaker. You knew who they were. Like, Rollins was just kind of like a question mark, and rest in peace, the question mark of the NWA. But it was just like they did this piece on YouTube where they were like, before I was a WWE superstar, right? Where they would, and it was really cool, right? Because I think they had like Bailey, they had, Seth, a couple other people, and they actually went to their indie roots. Ruby Riott of the Riot Squad, right? The former Heidi Lovelace. And, they kind of went through their previous, pre-WWE, pre-FCW of a certain, kind of designation or a pre-NXT versions of themselves, and went to the people that were there, their parents, everything like that. When it got to Rollins, oh my gosh, I learned absolutely. I mean, everybody lambasts when Dean Ambrose and now John Moxley went on Austin's podcast and it was just like, oh, whatever. But like, out of Rollins's mouth, hey, who is whatever the Destroyer? I don't know. I just need a name. Who is Blix? I don't know. Who is Tyler Black? Literally, your first world title came, the Ring of Honor world title. It was essentially what got you to where you are now. What was Tyler Black? I don't know.
Yeah, so it's like he didn't know, never mind. How can we? Yeah, I get that.
But this Monday Night Messiah deal and oh man, I love it. I love it, man.
I like it. And I know people are 50-50 on it, but I think he's just got something that other people don't. His promo ability, his presence, his presentation of everything is just... And then his wrestling ability, I saw somebody on Twitter the other day call Seth Rollins mediocre. He said he's a mediocre wrestler. He's a mediocre promo. And I just wanted to... I didn't reply because it's not worth the argument. But I thought, if he's mediocre, then we should all quit now because we've got no chance if he's mediocre.
Yeah, man. I that... Again, and I'm not even saying, like, Roman Reigns. I'm not saying he's a bad wrestler at all. Like, I'm not at all. He's just not my cup of tea. He's just like, when I, unfortunately, and maybe I'm a horrible human being, when all this stuff happened with the leukemia, I was like, please don't die. Like that, you're a son, a father, a husband. Was I clamored or enamored with the thought of you in my wrestling again? No, never wanted that to happen. And when everybody was like,
it's subjective, isn't it? Like, I'm going to say something controversial, and I didn't say this to you the other week because I think you're going to be mad at me. But I don't like Bret Hart. I'm not interested in Bret Hart. It just doesn't. I've watched it and tried, and it's just not for me. And wrestling's subjective like that. Every wrestler is going to be somebody's favorite, and every wrestler isn't going to be liked by someone else, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine. I mean, everybody shouts at me for not liking Bret Hart and tells me I'm not watching the right matches and I'm not doing this. But I preferred Shawn Michaels. I think because I liked Shawn, I never really got into Bret. And it's subjective. It's just subjective.
Absolutely. Well, I think it's fun because if you said like I didn't like Shawn or whatever, then I'd be like, what? Because Bret and Shawn and the topic, especially after the screw job, it's a polarizing thing amongst wrestling fans, right? So if you pick neither of them, I might be like, what are you doing? But I totally get it. And now I gotta ask, right? So not liking Bret but liking Shawn, what was it about Shawn that did it for you?
He's a showman, is Shawn. I think he's so good at being heel and babyface. but not really changing his character very much. He's the same all the time. He's just got something about him where I'm just interested. He draws me in. His ring skills, second to none. You can't question that. He's selling, just everything just draws me in to want to watch more. It's the whole persona, the character, just everything.
Did you like Owen any?
I don't remember Owen from being young. I've watched some stuff back, and I prefer Owen to Brett, but he's not in my top wrestlers. But I do prefer him to Brett.
It's funny. And I don't know why, but I actually fell asleep watching, and I knew it existed, but I didn't see it in its entirety. But Owen versus Liger in New Japan, like Circuit, and I literally fell asleep to that. Just put me where my head needed to be to go into the blissful REM sleep that I needed. Like that was it. It was just like I want to live in a world where, the Liger and Owen Hart matches just kind of float across your YouTube feed. Like that's my utopia. When the final bell rang and whatever, I was just like, and I drifted off blissfully to sleep. That's what happened.
Asleep after or in the middle of it, but that makes sense that you fell asleep after.
Oh yeah. It was just like the pin happened, whatever after, and that match, it was good Lord, 30 some odd years ago, and it still holds up. Like if
that is something I will say about Brett, is the stuff that I've watched would definitely stand the test of time. That's fair. Like I would say Brett's very creative, I think, with bits, and so it would stand the test of time. I'll give Brett that.
Yeah, no, yes. And it's funny because like before it, I was watching AEW, and not to poop-poo on AEW, but like it's not, when you take any of their wrestlers, and this is like the ones that you haven't seen in a different promotion, the Ethan Page, the Christian Cages, and all of that, like, not taking them out of the equation, but in terms of like standing the test of time, right? Like what wrestlers from AEW could you take into the 1970s and it works? The 1980s, you can take to Japan, you could whatever that works. Like Brett, Owen, Sean, that works. Moxley works. I would have loved, oh my gosh, to see Moxley versus Bruiser Brody in All Japan. What I wouldn't give. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Or Mox versus Dr. Death in All Japan as well. Like it. I'm salivating, like literally, But yeah, that deal, like the Fiend you could have done in the 70s, right? And like the man behind the mask would have been stabbed. Wyndham Rotunda would probably have like 37 side rooms. So would Alexa Bliss with, whatever, like little grandmamas that, like literally, miss their Saturday morning prelude to church on Sunday, came to the wrestling event and just like with the little Swiss Army knife, just jabbed them a little bit. It would have been Bird, not Randy Orton Fiend Bird, but
Yeah, hit with a handbag as they walk past.
Yeah, absolutely. DJ Yannick, my friend, also in the UK, say, well, according to what's good to see you as always. Ivy, you're looking lovely today. There you go.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Now
I'm trying to cover up my my black eye. I have a black eye under here, which has taken a lot of makeup to cover up.
Whoa. Okay. How did that happen?
Just a stray knee to the eye, that's all. Nothing to worry about. But
do tell.
It was. We did some no fans tapings for one of our training schools the other day, and it was a great match, really good tag match. But it was just one of them things where when someone just catches you with a knee, that's all, no biggie. But yeah, it's quite yellow underneath all this makeup.
Wow. Well, but here's the thing. Not sorry. You're a professional wrestler. You get in it, and it fisticuffs are flying, moves of bodies, literally convulsing. Look what happened with Riddle and Sheamus. Yeah. My God.
I didn't even realize he was bleeding right up until the end, and then it just suddenly started pouring out of his mouth.
Yeah, and I was trying to figure out, right? Because most people were like, "Oh, that was botched." What was supposed to happen if it worked right?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think it was botched.
Yeah, that what exactly happened. Exactly what you. If somebody does flippy ish and somebody kicks you, like I actually saw like a fail video of somebody coming literally off of like a street lamp, right? And they took a tumble, and then the bouncer of the club just kicked him, and he went flying. That's what happens.
Yeah. Everyone will be trying that now. So if it was a botch, they've created something because they can guarantee you when we're back to wrestling, somebody will try and replicate that.
Yeah, absolutely. And DJ Yannick's ever the protector says, "Send them my way, Ivy. I'll smash their face right in."
Thank you. I appreciate that. Don't worry, I got my own back after.
There you go, Potato City. Oh my gosh, yeah. Don McGuire says, in terms of, he says, "I'm a midget or dwarf in some kind of connotations," but I think the wrestlers, they call themselves that. So there's that. But I was wondering what the both of your thoughts on why it never became a huge promotion. Why?
I have no idea. I don't know much about it, if I'm honest.
Well, so like think of Hornswoggle, just like a bunch of like, okay, so WrestleMania 3 at the Pontiac Silverdome, we had like King Kong Bundy, and there was like Little Tokyo and Lord Littlebrook and all that jazz. I just think that because there was, I want to, yeah, there was a couple promotions that tried to start up in the mid 2000s, and then also in terms of like wrestling kind of like history as a kind of like, I don't know, special attraction. You would either have like Andre, somebody of an Andre Dusty Rhodes type, women, and they call it midgets. So, it's dwarf for a different name in this day and age, but those were kind of like almost sideshows, right? Kind of tipping the hat to the carny roots of wrestling. I'm glad that Sasha and Bianca are not a sideshow in the slightest bit at all. That's a WrestleMania main event, right? So we've gone away from that. I don't know if we'll see the same of in my lifetime of a dwarf match.
No. I don't know how to say this. Like, is there a lot of dwarf wrestling out there? I don't know. Is it a common thing? I can't say it's something I've ever noticed. If it is a common thing, is there enough workers that it would be able to become I don't know.
Yeah, and again, and it's something that throughout wrestling history, I don't think was ever treated with respect. And then the one time that it was in like the WWE with Hornswoggle, it was to literally cap off one of I think one of the most historic titles in wrestling history, in the former WCW Cruiserweight title, now WWE Cruiserweight title. That's the way you kill it off, is for almost a decade, is give it to Hornswoggle. So like even the one time that I can think that it was taken seriously, it was done to kind of poo-poo on something with more history than that.
Yeah, maybe it's just a progression thing then. We're finally getting there with the women. Maybe we just have to keep pushing for other stuff like that to be taken seriously.
Absolutely. But as going back to Cesaro, I love that it was taken serious. I because a lot of people were like, "Oh no, Rollins is gonna win," and it's almost predictable. But this is much like the Zayn Owens fight. Sami Zayn reminds me of El Generico. I don't know why. He just reminds me of El Generico. And shout out to El Generico, who's saving orphans in Mexico. Absolutely love him. but this is two Ring of Honor, two PWG, standouts like this. Like the one time that I went to Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, even though this is like the home promotion here in LA and what have you, I've only gone one time because like after that time it got bigger and bigger and you couldn't like
Yeah.
it was almost like a speakeasy. Like you had to know somebody even to buy a ticket, and then but the one time I had the Heroes of Wrestling, the Kings of Wrestling in Claudio Castagnoli and
Yeah.
Chris Hero, right? And like this was good. And most people are like, oh well, Rollins is gonna win. I was just like, they're friends, right? And there's no way that Colby Lopez can look at Claudio and go, hey, I don't want to give my friend who has been like almost obsessively like buried, it's just like start and stop or whatever, not want to give his buddy a WrestleMania moment. He's had WrestleMania moments. He's had Money in the Bank cash-ins. He's had title wins. He's had a litany of WrestleMania moments. I want to believe that Colby Lopez, screw the Seth Rollins, screw the Cesaro, Colby wanted to do a solo for Claudio, and that's what we saw in a beautiful, beautiful display.
Seth gains nothing from the victory anyway. It's not about wins and losses. That victory just absolutely nothing for Seth, whereas it would do for Cesaro. So I think that's a sign of a good worker as well. Somebody who doesn't care about the wins and losses and is just willing to do what's best for everyone involved. We're all in this together. So what would that have done for Seth Rollins for him to have won that match? Nothing. It would have made internet fans annoyed. That's what it would have done. And then other than that, it doesn't get him any more heat. Even if he'd have had a cheat to win or whatever, it wouldn't have done him any favors. So why would he not want to?
I agree. And speaking of, people do like internet fans and people that are wrestling fans that do weird things of the internet, I don't know if it kind of crossed your guys' desk, but there's a gentleman on the Twitter machine congratulating one Randy Orton. Do you know about this?
No.
Oh my gosh. So here's the deal. He's like, man, something to the fact I've got COVID, but I wouldn't have missed Randy Orton winning for the world.
Yeah. Okay, but he said it was a joke or something in the end.
No, but here's the thing. So I didn't get the joke part. From what people were saying, oh no, that's a bot. Now, because as soon as I saw the tweet, I saw a tweet on a message board, screenshot it. So I went, like any good, sane human being does, like go on the Twitter machine and find out whatever. No, that person has a face, right? He was like, oh, minutes to Mania, they're gonna let us in. Oh, and humming and hawing that they did the rain delay and all that jazz on night one. Like, so it wasn't a bot; it was an actual person. And he was like, "Oh, COVID, blah blah blah." Got his Twitter shut down, rightfully so. And even if it was a joke, oh man, really?
It's not a joke. What a bizarre thing to say. So bizarre. So I feel, do people just do things for attention online now? Is it worth that attention? Why? I can't get my head around it.
You've never seen? Yes, because absolutely no ass selfie Instagrams exists. Ass selfie Bible quote. And that's not a female thing. I've seen just as many dudes.
Yeah.
Selfie Instagram and what have you, right? Or in the MMA realm, oh, I'm an MMA fighter, and like your record's 0-7.
Yeah.
Okay, I know posturing exists and everything like that, but it's just like so many people have either died, lost their family members, not just actual like losing them, but haven't been able to see them in over a year, lost jobs, lost whatever. Like the whole world went in lockdown, and there are people that came out better for it, which that's kind of creepy that a worldwide pandemic and you'd be better out of it. But there were some people that have. I'm looking at you, Jeff Bezos, on Amazon. But yeah, it's just
It's
one.
kind of, especially the WrestleMania thing, like the WrestleMania with fans was such a positive thing to happen, and everybody was feeling good about it. And for once, there was, this sense of community within the wrestling world that, this good thing's going to happen. And then you've got someone like that who's just trying to drag it down and make a negative of it, and it's just unnecessary.
Absolutely, absolutely unnecessary. But one thing that was absolutely necessary, and in terms of the build and the place on the card, I mean, we have had a year of needing barbed wire death matches to settle a feud, and then might have not gone as predictably as people might have wanted it to, right?
Not
So
quite.
on night one, the main event for the SmackDown Women's Championship was Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair. I mean, I knew, I almost felt like how people revere Savage and Steamboat, right? Yeah, of WrestleMania 3. I think of this generation, that was going to be it, and I was not disappointed in the slightest bit. It was, I mean, there was so much to it, right? Because two women of color, and then a main event of a Mania, right? But this is it's not the 3-way with Ronda and whatever. This is two wrestlers, right? Like, no part timers, no outside interfere. Like, these are two wrestlers, two women's wrestlers, two wrestlers who just happen to be women. They're the best in the world, in my mind's eye. And it's funny because SmackDown in the lexicon of the WWE universe is looked at as like the B brand, right?
Yeah.
So the B brand women's title, right? Don McGuire was talking about why is it Dwarf Wrestling about and everything like that. And something that was regarded in the same era as a sideshow would be women's wrestling. And the secondary in the company that's presenting this whole pomp and circumstance, the secondary women's title is main eventing night one.
Yeah. It was incredible. It was so good. The match is perfect. Everything about it is perfect. The Bianca gorilla pressing, carrying Sasha up and throwing her in, the hair whip, just everything was great. It was so good. It was perfect. And have you seen the video online of Sasha after when she's supposed to be selling and she's just like smiling? And that's my favorite video of the entire weekend, is seeing Sasha in that sort of emotion. It just shows you how much she wanted it and how much they wanted it. I'm very pleased for Bianca. I think from the minute she walked in NXT, you was like, this girl's, she needs to be polished, but she's going to be a star. And she proved that. It's hard to sort of make males in the industry understand just how big that is for us. Like, I think a lot of the issues is that a lot of the men are really supportive of women's wrestling. A lot of the guys that I know are very supportive. So they can't understand that people aren't supportive of it. So trying to make them understand how much of a big deal this is for us, that not just you guys, but everyone else is now sort of accepting that this is the main event and they deserve to be there, is such a massive deal. It's really emotional to watch. Like, watching Bianca when she got in the ring and they had the sort of standoff and Bianca started crying. I was like, if that was me, I'd have been crying the moment my entrance music hit. So she did well to get that far.
Yeah, I mean, the level of professionalism that those two women showed, but also, there's just much like Ronda Rousey, right? Much like Ronda Rousey, regardless of how people think of her and everything, there are girls, there are even males that have, maybe adult males, right, been kind of sequestered in, not feeling right in their own life in relationships and whatever, and they feel empowered by watching Ronda Rousey go in and kick ass, right? So there's a whole generation of not just females but males or whatever that are going to look at that match and go like, that's it. Look how many I almost want to say, like, even in like real life, right? Because women are going to see those examples, right? Like, I almost feel like there's not going to be as many domestic like abuse issues in the next 20 years because a woman is going to know what her worth is, right? And obviously it took a long road to get to Sasha and Bianca, right? How many just in the WWE have paved the way? Look at how many of you gals that Joshi Wrestling, the Jumping Ball Angels, Stardom, Shimmer, Rise, all of this stuff, Fierce Females, all of you guys plugging away for literally like the past 50 years, going back to Mae Young and Ethel Johnson, who is a Hall of Fame inductee in the Legacy wing, right? Like so many women have paved the way to get that. Like to me, it's a testament to those two, but also like again, 50 years of plugging away of all of you who chose this as your profession that have kicked ass.
Yeah, I think as well, it's you get it from an outside point of view as well. So people who sort of around my age that grew up with wrestling, grew up with the Attitude Era and the bra and panties matches and whatever. So when they find out that I'm a wrestler, that's what they think I'm doing. They think I'm like a ring girl with the boards and whatever. And so now we've sort of got to where we are now within the industry. I hope it can leak out and show, like you say, women, everyone, what can happen. Hopefully it kind of seeped up through MMA, didn't it? With Ronda Rousey, like you say, she showed everything. So hopefully it seeped out into other sports, into the world. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed. And Don McGuire, he says, "I believe there isn't enough women's wrestling." Oh, and that's it. And you talked about Ronda, right? I remember, like shortly after my dad had passed, or right around this, shortly after my dad had passed. It was Christmas of 2010. That was the day my dad unfortunately passed away. But Dana White was outside of a hipster Hollywood restaurant, and Ronda Rousey was, in Strike Force, right? And she was plugging away, and there wasn't even a women's title. There wasn't a women's division. There wasn't anything. And he flat out said, women will never be in the UFC. Less than a year later, that was a thing. Women's fighting, right? And then, now there's 4 divisions, and any of them, they headline pay-per-views, right? Much like this, right? Mm-hmm. So I love it. And even subtly, right? Like, you remember when we first saw Audrey and Jess, a lot of people likened her to baby Beth Phoenix, but the female ref of NXT, and now, Aja Smith, right? Like before, it'd be like, oh yeah, that's cool, like whatever. Yeah. I absolutely forget. Like to me, in terms of, and we've got Ref Domi from Finland kind of coming up. Like I don't even notice, and that's a beautiful thing for a referee to not be noticed. Like they did it.
Ultimate compliment for that referee.
Yes. All right. And and every independent promotion that has come back, whether it be, in the form of a live to tape broadcast or whatever, they have at least one ref. Championship Wrestling from Hollywood has, and the United Wrestling Network, they've got Allison Lee. There's so much. So I just this is the moment that you got, not to say that you guys need, but you've worked for so tirelessly.
It just shows that there's all these other things that women can do in wrestling. If you don't want to be a wrestler, that's fine. But nowadays, you don't just have to be a valet. You don't have to, and there's nothing wrong with people that want to be valets. I love valeting. It's one of my favorite things to do. But you don't just have to be that anymore. You're not just there to stand around the ring. You don't have to be a wrestler if you don't want to be. There's all these other areas that you can get into, just like the men have always been told. I was told coming through, always have your options open. There's all these other things going on, which there was for guys. If you didn't get in as a wrestler, you might get in as a referee. You might get in as an agent. But you just don't hear that for women. But nowadays, like you say, when there's a female ref, you don't even notice there's a female ref anymore because it's so normal that you don't go, oh, look, they've got, and you did when AEW started, you did look at Audrey and say, look, they've got a female ref, whereas now that's just normal. And I think that's come about really quickly as well. I think the sort of women's revolution took a while to get to where we are now, whereas everything else now seems to be following and fitting into place.
No, 100%. I love it. And because the entirety, right? Like if an exciting match is on the card, that's it, right? That's why we love wrestling. Exciting matches, moments, and everything like that. So to it, like this is what we need. That on any given night, the women could be, and rightfully so, can be just as good in terms of the optics of the watching and paying audience are just as good as the man. We're not going to grab popcorn. We're not going to go to the bathroom on this one. No, we're watching this the whole way through.
You've got some women in the WWE. I always use Asuka as an example. Asuka's better than 90% of the roster there. And it doesn't matter that she's female. She just is. And I would say Sasha's getting that way as well. Charlotte Flair, they just, it doesn't matter whether they're male or female. What matters is their abilities. And if their abilities are better than some of the men on the card, then that's it. They get that spot.
Yeah, so be it. So be it. Addis said, my boy Woods, what's going on, Addis? And DJ Yannick says, I'm back, guys. Just check out Ivy on Twitter. You got some good moves going on there. And with those bats, I'd love to be your tag team partner.
You have to fight Ruby Radley for that. I don't think she'd be best impressed if I ditched her for you.
Ooh, yes. I mean, not everyone. Most people would say they're pretty little killers, but most people, when you get down to it, aren't pretty little killers. But Ivy and Ruby, they are it.
I don't know if everyone would agree with you, but fingers crossed.
There you go. You were talking about like the tapings that might have happened at an undisclosed location. How good was it to be back in the wrestling ring after all of this time? Because obviously, I mean, not only do you want to perfect your craft, but I've heard in some circles when you take your first bump back, not the kindest of things. Because
it's not.
Yeah. So how was that?
I am lucky that I've been able to train a little bit over the last few weeks. It's really difficult here because I don't know how you guys have it set up, but we are, so like each area has a different council that is in charge of the COVID rules, basically. Okay. So different councils will have different rules of what they will allow. So where my training school is, they've given us a bit more freedom because of the regulations we can put in place. Like we have to have testing before every session and things like that. So I have been able to train a little bit in the last few weeks, just leading up to this match. One of the rules is you can train if it's for a performance, which because of the rules of wrestling, this counts as a performance. So we've been able to get a little bit of training in. So the first bump back was disgusting. It was awful. I was feeling that for the week after, but I'm getting back into the swing of things. Doing an actual match was really fun. It was one of those things where we started off saying, we'll just do a nice, easy 10-minute slow tag match. And by the end of it, I think we went 18 minutes and we've got this huge back end of the match with tag moves in and false finishes and submissions. So it was kind of going into it. It's one of the most nervous I've ever been because it was like, can I actually get through this? And then I was, after my first little sequence on the edge of the apron, sort of like, whew, that was tough. And I've still got the rest of it to go. But we made it through. No injuries, other than a black eye. But so, yeah, that's the first one out of the way.
Yeah, but you're a wrestler. Those things happen, and that's why we exalt you, males and females, and everybody that wants to do this, because you guys are literally putting your bodies on the line to entertain us. Like, my goodness, like we couldn't be more. Just thank you, my goodness.
It's a tough old business. It's really difficult. It's not an easy job. If anyone wants to get into it, go for it, but just be aware that it's not easy. It's tough.
Absolutely. And DJ Yannick says, no, don't ditch Ruby. 3 is the magic number, right? And he's like, I'm in Hull. That's less than an hour away. And, which you can't say any more equality than two females essentially having a male valet. I don't even, yeah, right?
Yeah, we'll get you a baseball bat. You can match us. Get you some matching. Yeah.
See, I like it. See, this is the think tank here. And one day I'd like to fly over and do some training with Adam Woods. He'd kick my ass. I don't know. I'm still a crap jiu-jitsu white belt. So, I mean, I might know a hold or two or whatever, but I want to believe that in my head I'm Stu Hart, is what I'm saying. Right? That's a crap white belt to Stu Hart, but I mean, that was it. You were saying, like with Brett and Owen and everything like that. Well, every time Brett and Owen would come to the ring, whether it be your Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan or later Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler, they would talk about, Brett and Owen's dad Stu and how he would like stretch, which is grapple the heck out of basketball players, football players, muscle bound people. And one time out of the year, when they had the Calgary Stampede in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, he would choke out a bear. I was like, I lived in San Francisco where at the time, my parents and like, oh, he's getting influenced by Spider-Man and he wants to jump out the window and or an apartment and whatever. But like choking out, like I couldn't jump out the window, but I can, a guy like me can choke out the bear. He is going to love this, but I'm just saying, way before, and a lot of MMA fans don't like pro wrestling. Pro wrestling fans don't like MMA, but pro wrestlers love MMA.
Yeah.
MMA fighters love pro wrestling.
There's a lot of skills you can transfer across. So, if you're good at one, chances are you're going to be able to move some of that stuff across and use it in the other sport.
Absolutely. Which Ed DJ Adams says, I'd be living the dream. He's a third dan black belt in karate, a bit of boxing training, but a big wrestling fan, and I'm going for anything, which I think you're just kind of showing your cards and why you should be the valet for the Pretty Little Killers. That's just,
yeah, exactly. It sounds like you'd fit right in.
Mm-hmm. I'm just saying, DJ Yannick. I can't wait. I really can't wait. Now, obviously, Ivy, there are a lot of things that you're doing, and you wouldn't be doing it if not for the support of many people, both professionally and personally, that have emboldened you to where you are now. And we're thankful for those people. But those people might be sight unseen or sight unheard. So let's get some shout outs out of the way to acknowledge the people that have got you to the dance.
Okay, so the main person I would say that got me where I am, got me sort of understanding wrestling is Brady Phillips. So those of you that know Brady Phillips, I valet for Brady Phillips. He's my other half, so maybe I'm a little bit biased. But he's someone that helps everyone. He's always there for advice. He's super, super knowledgeable. He's very humble as well. He'll never admit to it, but he did everything for me in wrestling. He sort of took me out of a training school environment and showed me that there's all this other stuff going on for me. And if it wasn't for him, I'd probably have quit, if I'm honest, because I would have just got left behind in sort of a training school and forgotten about. But yeah, he is the most underused talent in the UK, and he should be on NXT UK. Definitely. He is that good. And he doesn't get enough attention for the quality of wrestler that he is.
I might have to slide into those DMs and have him on the podcast, is what I'm saying.
Definitely should. Although I don't know if he'll do a live one because he can't be trusted. But
oh, that's a live wire. I'm the one who runs with the scissors towards the electrical outlet. Let's do that.
You'd have a great conversation with him. He loves World of Sport Wrestling. He loves he loves Bret Hart, so you bond over Bret Hart. But yeah,
there's one. Yes.
He's so talented. He helps me with everything. I love to have him there if I'm planning a match and can just sort of run through it with him. He'll give me all these different ideas for everything. He's great.
Absolutely. And would that be it in terms of the shout outs?
I feel like we should give a shout out to Adam Bolt and the Express, who are three guys who started at my training school and have put up with me throughout everything, let me try all my moves on them and practice things. And they're really sort of working their way up through the ranks now. And another person I want to thank is Sticks from House of Pain Wrestling. Sticks took me on just before the pandemic and throughout the pandemic, and has took me and the boys and taught us a whole new, sort of like opened my eyes to a whole new way of wrestling and psychology and things like that. So yeah, Sticks, fantastic trainer.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Oh man, I love that. Oh man, there's wrestlers in the UK that I thought I knew. I thought I knew from the UK to Finland to Scotland or whatever. Now I'm just gonna go down a Instagram wormhole and find out whoever. Yeah, it's brilliant. And again, like Japanese and British wrestling, that does it for me in 2020. Like I mean, prior to this week of all this wrestling, like that is all I was watching is NXT UK. Obviously old water sports stuff, the ICW stuff that's on the network, like Progress. There's just so much fierce, and with the ladies, fierce females. There's so much happening outside, but British wrestling, UK wrestling, that is my jam. So man, I'm gonna go down a happy wormhole. So thank you.
Yeah, in there, yeah. Go if you like British wrestling. Find Brady Phillips. He loves British wrestling. The amount of World of Sport stuff he'll put on or send me, and I'm like, this is not for me, and he loves it. So you'd get on.
Yeah, man. And DJ Yannick says, I'd love to, however, I'd be rubbish in selling moves, but I'd be happy to take the knocks off of yourself and Ruby. Right, guys? Gotta give. I'm up for something. Get my deets off according to Woods, and we'll chat in the future. Absolutely. So, without further ado, for DJ Yannick and the rest of people who want to find out what Ivy is doing with the Pretty Little Killers, with Brady Phillips, just everything that you're doing, where is the best place they can find you on social media?
Best place would be on Twitter, which is Ivy_wrestler. Instagram is also the same, as is Facebook. And Pretty Little Killers are at Pretty Little Killers 18 on Instagram.
Dang right. Ivy, it has been like an honor and privilege to do this again 2 consecutive weeks. This is my WrestleMania moment. Like the week before and the week, like you started off, I mean, the morning, well, here it's the morning of the Hall of Fame, right? And then here we are in the aftermath. So I really do appreciate this.
No, thank you for having me. I've loved it.
Oh, and Don McGuire says thank you for sharing. That's all you, my dear. But obviously, if you're in the following and subscribing mood and what have you, and you haven't already done so, I warmly encourage you to go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to the According to Woods podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. I mean, Ivy, you're subscribed, right?
Of course I am.
Dang right. Heck yeah. So be like Ivy, be like me, go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. But if you don't believe our word for it, and I don't know why you wouldn't, well, here's another pro wrestler, Zeta Zhang.
Hey, this is Zeta Zhang. Make sure you subscribe.